Spencer boy, can you do some for me? What's up, my dudes? We got the World Supercross Super World Tour Cross MX vs. ATV Legends. One of the best DLC I've seen for any of these different kind of arcade dirt bike games, obviously minus the actual Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Track DLC. Okay. By the way, big shout out to TKO Smokey and Isaac Lucas on those re-ups on the memberships for the channel. You know, got to represent the dudeskies out here. You know what it is. So, let's get right in here to this. We got 6 tracks total. We got 2 of them that are tracks in Japan, 2 of them that are all Australian tracks, and there's 2 tracks that are, I think, Italian tracks, right? So you got this really cool thing here where MX vs. ATV kind of made this certain theme around each one of these different tracks. So, you know, you're really going to get that kind of, you know, Japan-style culture. You know what I'm saying? They really went deep with that, I feel like, and each one of these tracks feels totally different from one another when you go from an actual different area. Obviously, the 2 Japanese tracks are pretty similar. The 2 Australian tracks are pretty similar to each other, right? But they're very different than, like, the Italian to the Australian to the Japanese. You know what I'm saying? They're all different like that, but there's kind of like pairs of tracks here, right? So, but there's definitely some of these tracks that are like smaller jump scaling. It's where you're kind of just seat bouncing the bike to get right up over a little triple jump or like a little hip double or whatever. And then you got especially the Australian tracks. Those are probably the bigger jump, you know, Quad Daddy, 69 Fatty, T-sipping, ripping, you know, big jumps, huge jumps, massive jumps, bro. Big jumps, bro. So little bit of variation there. That's good to see. Kind of got I feel like the Japan tracks are probably a little bit on the smaller side of jumps size-wise, and each one of these tracks almost has like a bit of a Joker lane type deal that opens up this completely different part on the track after you go around the first lap. I don't know if every single track has that, but I know a bunch of them have that where it opens up this whole different lane. Typically, it seems to be like slower, so I'm led to believe that's kind of like a Joker lane, right, type situation. But yeah, man, this is definitely something that I wasn't expecting. Oh, and before I forget, the biggest thing to this whole thing is this comes with the 2022 track pack for MX vs. ATV Legends. So if you've already bought that track pack to get all of the Lucas Oil Pro Motocross replica tracks for the 2022 tracks, then this shit automatically comes with that. Okay? So I feel like the majority of you guys out there did buy that you know, Lucas Oil Pro Motocross. Technically, that was in this 2022 track pack. So believe it or not, this is actually really smart on, you know, MX vs. ATV's part here it's basically just free content if you've already bought the Lucas Oil Pro Motocross tracks, right? That's pretty much in a roundabout way what it is. I'm not sure what other kind of tracks are going to come with this 2022 track pack, but that's a nice thing that they're not making it like splitting up every little piece of DLC track content where you got to pay $5 here, $10 there, $15 there, $69 there. You know what I'm saying? They've kind of all put it together here a little bit. So you're kind of paying that money up front for the track pass pack, whatever the fuck it is. But then once they make all of this other track DLC, then I believe you're going to get all of the track DLC in 2022 is going to come with that 2022 track pack or pass or whatever, right? I think that's how it's going to work. I don't think they're going to come out with any other track DLC that wouldn't be included in that at this point. So, yeah, there's a crazy sand section on the Australian tracks, both of them. have crazy, they've really played around with, you know, trying to make it a little bit more down the fantasy style roads. Like on the Japan track, you're literally jumping over like a you know, some kind of I don't know, some kind of samurai temple or some shit, you know? You're actually literally jumping over that, which is not a realistic thing at all, but it's super fun to have in the game. And also with the crazy sand jumps and sand sections of the Australian tracks, they're definitely pushing the limits of, you know, trying to give you something totally different than the standard in-stadium Supercross tracks. Pretty much all of these tracks are either completely outdoor or they go outdoor at some point. So this is kind of working into that, what I was talking about before the game ever came out. They need to have some Supercross tracks that are a little bit more expansive, a little bit more, you know, not just that standard in-stadium Supercross track design, and that's exactly what they've done here. So I definitely am seeing some things with the physics of this game that could be improved now that we're getting on some of these, you know, more monstrous style, fantasy style tracks and shit, where you're jumping a lot bigger, you're, you know, kind of hitting shit different than you would on like a standard Supercross track in the game. There's still a lot of stuff they could do with the physics of this game. Don't ever get that twisted. There's still a lot of bounce to this game. When you come up short on something, the bike seems to bounce more than it just like either takes the hit or pops you off. There's a lot of bouncing going on still. I don't know. They've done a couple little things in there. Obviously, you know, the cornering, the bike kind of stepping out on you, it can do some weird shit like that too. But yeah, as far as these tracks overall, I mean, I think it's cool. They all got a little bit of a different theme to them. Perfect timing with the World Supercross shit going on, with the Supercross World Tour on MX vs. ATV Legends, so they kind of linked all that shit up at the right time. Yeah, just cool to see something different here, you know. It's probably the best kind of content they could be adding to the game, you know, short of actually giving you a full-blown track editor. I mean, I don't really see what other kind of stuff they could do other than like full-blown fantasy tracks, like a Moon Freeride track, or, you know, some kind of crazy trippy SX or some shit, you know, the Spency boy, bro, you know, the 420 boy, you know what I'm saying, bro? But either way, yeah, I mean, if the deal about this, all of these different tracks right here with this DLC, it's one of those things, it's like the Lucas Oil Pro motocross tracks are worth, just by theirself, that's worth buying the track pass, right? And then these tracks just come with that track pass. So, and on top of all of that, the fact that they've updated those Lucas Oil 2022 Pro motocross tracks, they've added bigger berms, you know, bigger jumps, they've done a lot of stuff to them. So when you really add all that in, you can tell that MX vs. ATV cares about actually giving you some value here, Milestone. You know, value, you know what I mean? Value. Anyways, I think all of these different game companies, you know, Battlefield 2069, Disaster, you know, all these companies are starting to wake up to the fact that, you know, us consumers, gamers, players, we're not idiots. We know what you're doing. Okay, so seems to me like MX vs. ATV has caught on to that in a sense, and instead of like nickel and diming you for every little piece of this, it's like, oh yeah, we'll just throw this in with that track pass that you already bought because you wanted those Lucas Oil Pro motocross tracks, so then here we'll just give you a little bit of extra content basically, and if you haven't already bought the track pass and you buy it now, not only do you get all of these Supercross tracks, but then you'll also get all those Lucas Oil Pro motocross tracks updated from what they originally were. So you're kind of seeing where the value is coming from there, right? But yeah, it's 6, totally new, totally different. The sand ruts up like crazy. I think I actually had the terrain deformation turned off on those tracks just to simply run a couple of hot laps on it. But I promise, if you got that deformation on maximum, because now MX vs. ATV has the option to go in there and change it, okay? So if you have it on maximum terrain deformation, those sand sections are going to rut up, rut tester, bro. Promise you, dude. It's going to be next level on that, especially on that particular Australian track where it's got all those pre-made ruts on the sand jumps. That shit reminds me of like a bunch of the custom tracks that I made on MX Sim. Like, I had a section just like that on Space Beach, if any of you guys remember that, where it's like a shitload of big style pre-made ruts up these like sand Supercross doubles and triples. I don't know, hard to explain, but like, you can definitely tell MX vs. ATV is kind of taking a page out of the custom track maker book, you know, the Reflex custom track maker or the MX Simulator custom track maker book, where they're making it a little different than what you would see in any arcade dirt bike game typically, right? So that's what these tracks really give to you, is a little bit of that taste of actual custom trackness in MX vs. ATV Legends. So either way, man, these tracks are cool. I just want the physics to get better in the game. That's really all it comes down to at this point. The bike just needs more of a natural sort of feeling in the corners, not such a like direct steering type feeling. It can feel very, you know, mobile, arcadey type feel in the corners. Needs a little bit more realism there. The whip, you still need to be able to scrub the bike a little bit more naturally over the jump faces. I have noticed, for whatever reason, now if you have your suspension maxed out like stiff, if you go over the whoops now, that shit hits hard on the whoops after this last update. So we've got a new update, and then shortly after that, all of these new DLC Supercross tracks here. So it's kind of you're testing the new update with the physics and the terrain deformation setting options, along with all these new tracks, along with the fact they've updated a shitload of those Lucas Oil Pro motocross tracks. So you got to give the hats off to MX vs. ATV here. Even though the physics aren't perfect, the game's not perfect, it came out in a weird-ass state, they're starting to build some steam here, you know what I'm saying? They're starting to put that 1 foot forward and just focusing forward and actually doing some things right. So, you know, you just got to believe in that and believe that MX vs. ATV is going to continue to improve these physics, you know, all the different aspects to the game. I don't know. Like I say, I think this is about the best possible DLC they could be doing right now. I really think that it is. Personally, I just think they're on the right road now. You know what I'm saying? They're doing the right stuff now. And it's been a long time since we've really seen that. So, you know, definitely, I recommend going and buying that track pass now that you get all of this kind of content with it. I think it's worth it. And the fact that they're still updating the Lucas Oil Pro motocross tracks, so they could go in here and update all of these World Tour Supercross tracks right here in the future as well. So just because you buy that DLC, that track DLC, doesn't necessarily mean those tracks are always going to stay that way. So you may be paying technically for all of those tracks, but then updated versions of all those tracks down the road. You just never know. So either way, man, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. I'll see you boys on that next one. Later, dudes.